So the first game on the list is Batman, a Sunsoft Batman game, but not the Batman games you're familiar with on the NES, Genesis, Game Gear, Super NES, but rather on the TurboGrafx-16, or at least the Japanese version of that, the PC Engine. This Batman game is a cash grab, certainly, released in the early 90s, right as those first three Tim Burton Batman movies were very popular. But it's not a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but rather a Bomberman-type puzzle game, and a pretty addictive one at that. You just sort of go around these mazes, taking out bad guys with your Batarang thing, and just solving progressively more difficult puzzles as you move through the levels, taking out Joker's goons, and so forth. Simple concept, but great music. It borrows a lot of that Sunsoft Batman music that is so famous, and it's just addictive. It's a good time, and you can play it. It seems casual, and all of a sudden 1 or 2 hours have gone by, and you realize, hey, this is a creative, well-designed game. Arguably not terribly connected to the Batman lore, but worth your time nonetheless. Coming in at number 4, Polyphony Digital, of course, is known for Gran Turismo, and they just have Gran Turismo Sport out, which is becoming a better game. But in the mid-2000s, they released Tourist Trophy, which took the Gran Turismo formula and applied it to motorcycles, and I think the result is one of the best motorcycle racing games still to this day. It's incredibly complex. You can play kind of an arcade style, or you can really play a simulation mode where you have to really understand braking and weight distribution on the bike. And it's the same kind of formula as Gran Turismo. You get your licenses, you participate in races of escalating difficulty, you fill your garage with what I suppose at the time were all the major motorcycle types and manufacturers in the world. And if you like Gran Turismo, if you like that PlayStation 2 style of Gran Turismo, fun, laid back, in-depth, addictive, I think this game is worth checking out. Like I said, when you compare it to games like Ride or the Ducati 20th anniversary game, all of those milestone motorcycle games that you can pick up now, this it just has more polish. It's smoother, and it's an overall better game. Number 3 is another Japanese import, and that is Ganbare Goemon 2. Now, if you research this franchise, you'll see any number of games. There are probably, at least on the Super Famicom, 3 or 4 of them. But Ganbare Goemon 2 for the Super Famicom is, I think, one of the best in the series, and one of the best platformers that I have ever played. It's incredibly well designed, big sprites, gorgeous graphics, really a bold look to each level. Each level is different, you know, from a haunted forest to a sumo fighting palace and things like that. It's a fun game, and, you know, it is challenging. It kind of reminds me of a better version of the Looney Tunes Konami side-scrolling platformer on the Sega Genesis. It has, you know, that style, but it's more polished and it's more involved. And I think it is just a 16-bit game that is really one of the hallmarks of the genre of the time period, but not many people have played it. If you can find it, find a ROM or something before Nintendo swoops in and makes all ROMs illegal, pick it up. If you grew up in that time, or if you like platformers, definitely worth playing. Number 2 is a Wii game called Fortune Street. It's part of the Itadaki Street series in Japan. And this is a Japanese take on Monopoly. I believe the first game came out on the Famicom. And to me, it's more engaging than Monopoly. I realize that there was, I think, an NES Monopoly that you could pick up, but this game has evolved nicely over the years. Each game is extremely in-depth. The basic premise, like Monopoly, is to swoop in and buy all of the properties on a given map, try to get an inventory of properties before your opponents. There's 3 computer opponents. And then invest in various ways and play various mini-games and see if you can extract as much money from your opponents as possible and make it back to the bank before they try to do the same to you. Now, it sounds simple, but like I said, each game takes twists and turns. There's multiple phases to each game. There's kind of the property acquisition phase, there's the investment phase, there's the games of chance, and these games are long, so if you pick this game up, and it sort of has the Mario characters, it has Dragon Quest characters, you can play one game for a good, hour or more, and it's an acquired taste, certainly, but you'll find yourself, if you put the time in to understand how the game is played and have a few trial playthroughs, you'll find a game that is very rich and very rewarding. And if you like it, and if you like the idea of having various characters, you can also import Japanese versions of the game with the Square and the Enix characters. I think there's a new one also on the PlayStation 4. Of course, you'll have to get over the language barrier. But the Wii game, this is the old, original Wii, very approachable, very colorful, and it's a game that I believe is relatively cheap, and you can put a lot of hours into it and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And lastly, a tragically underappreciated game here in the United States, TrackMania Stadium. Now, you can find this game on Steam. It is out there. It is a modern game, and it has various other kind of plugins. There's sort of desert racing, town and country sort of racing, and a new tropical racing add-on, but no one plays those. TrackMania Stadium is where it's at, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is one of, if not the best current PC game. That's a bold statement, but it really does everything well. It's casual enough to sort of pick up and play, but it has so many different ways to participate in online communities. There's Discord servers, there's racing leagues, and the idea really is to race through user-generated courses in a time trial type setting and increase your standing. They have sort of live global leaderboards. And of course, if you're on a team, earn points for your team. Now, that doesn't sound terribly new, terribly innovative, or perhaps terribly exciting, because time trials are not the most exciting form of racing. But when you get out there, when you play online, and you see the quality user-generated tracks, it really is impressive. And what I noticed, and I've just been playing this game recently, what I've noticed is I've had this game for maybe 4 or 5 years now, and at least as far as logging in and just being an individual player, not being on a team, not prepping for a particular race, but as an individual player, I have never played the same game twice. There are literally thousands of maps, very high quality maps, very challenging, and if you care about improving your position within a given race, if you care about improving your standings on the global leaderboards, it is a very, very involving game, and it's one that I wholly recommend. As I go on there and I look at the top servers in the world, there are hardly any North American players, at least at the peak times. The peak times really Friday afternoon into Friday night, Saturday afternoon into night, and Sunday afternoon. And most of the players are in Europe. But if you get on one of the big servers, you'll have 60 people on a racetrack. It is a ton of fun. So if you see this on a Steam sale, pick it up. Like I said, for my money, the best current, I'll say, multiplayer PC game.